Hello everybody, welcome back to 366 Days of Hope. My name is Pearl and I'm here to share our next topic, cut the branch off. Please excuse my appearance. I just finished doing my, fitness class and I'll be ready for more a little later. But I wanted to touch base on this because I think that this is probably one of the other aspects of relationships that we need to have better control in, so that it doesn't affect our mental health, our emotional health, and our physical health. One of the things that happens to our body when we're in relationships is when we're in a happy, healthy relationship, we thrive mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. But when we're in a toxic relationship or we're in a relationship where we're constantly stressed out, it affects everything. And I'm not just talking about, your mental health, but I'm talking your gut, down to the digestive tract. And I remember watching this reel at one point. It was like two people talking, and this person had a question for the speaker, and that question was, how long should I endure a relationship or a friendship, whether it be friendship or even a, an intimate relationship? How long should I endure before I cut it off? Before I cut that person off? And the speaker said something so profound. He said, how much poison do you have to drink before you die? I mean, I laughed, but I thought about, wow, that's actually really profound, because actually the moment that your body stresses out, the moment cortisol is dumped into your body. And when that happens often or for a long period of time, it can actually destroy the balance of your gut flora and also destroy the lining in your digestive tract. It's wild. So cortisol is a hormone, but you also have neurotransmitters that get dumped out too when you're stressed out. And so you have to think about, ways in which it prevents that from happening, which is why it's really important, I feel, to pray when you're stressed, and also to think about good things. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are pure, think on these things. I know I'm paraphrasing, but those things are said because it's to help redirect our attention to something positive, because we are dramatically changing our internal, health just from the existence of stress. And so when I tell people, if you have a very stressful family member, maybe creating some space between you and that person might actually be a healthy method to enable your body to heal. And in all honesty, I think that is sometimes the best thing. It may not be ideal, you still want to have like love and respect, or maybe you still want to have contact, but I think limiting the contact is sometimes a positive thing. If you have to cut that person off completely because their behavior just, the moment you hear, the moment that you see their phone number pop up on your phone and they're creating anxiety, like that's a point where I would be like, all right, I think you need to wipe the slate clean. And it's not to sit here and say, like, especially as a Christian, like that you're disrespecting them in any way. No, in fact, you're loving them. You are actually loving them by creating that distance. If you think about Jesus and what he did with the Pharisees, Jesus didn't sit there and hang out with the Pharisees. He had moments where he interacted with them, but he wasn't choosing to go over and be like, hey, let's be friends. No, it's like the Pharisees were there in the synagogue because that's where they are. I mean, he had to go there to preach and share the word of God. But the Pharisees were the ones who were actually following Jesus and were trying to find something wrong with him. But Jesus didn't go out of his way to hang out with them. And even when he would dine, there were Pharisees among him. He didn't reject them, but he wasn't keeping them close. And in fact, when you look at Jesus's circle of friends, he had three. He had three people that he was really close to: Peter, John, and James. And the reason why I know that is because when you look at who he took up right before the transfiguration, where he reveals his glorious body and Elijah and Moses come down, like it's Peter, James, and John that are there, that are witnessing it. There's no other disciples that are there. Again, it's the same individuals that you see kind of being really close to Jesus. And the same way, I think that when you have your close friends, you will only have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people that you're extremely close to, but everybody else is kind of on the outskirts, and that's okay. And then there are some that you need to put beyond the camp of where you are. And the reason for that is to keep the health and wellness of your own mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And I know that this is really hard, especially I feel like for Asian people. And the reason being is because we're raised to believe that we have to be in a community. And it's not to say that we shouldn't be in a community. That's not what I'm saying. I think a community is so vital and important for the mental, spiritual, emotional well-being of an individual. They need to be connected in their community. Just like a gate keeps good things in and keeps bad things out, we need to be able to discern about individuals. We need to be able to identify, okay, well, this person I would want in my life, and this person I can't have them too close in, but I will be able to minister with them, but I can't pull them everybody in, like I think there's a level of discernment of how much you allow individuals into your circle in that sense. And I think that it's healthy and it's biblical, but I think most importantly, like we have to think about what we need to be able to do to reflect Christ in everything that we're doing. So when you think about like individuals in your life that you're like, okay, this person is just constantly negative, this person constantly does things. And it's also important for you as a Christian to point out those things lovingly, tactfully with the individual as well, and just say, hey, these are my boundaries. These are behaviors that I don't accept, I don't respect, I don't want. So please respect that. And the moment that person doesn't respect it, acknowledge that they don't respect it. And say, hey, listen, if you do this, these are the consequences. And it's the same thing with, raising kids. I think kids definitely, based on everything that I've personally read, kids need boundaries. That has to be the funnel, as they call it, the funnel parenting or something like that. If you look at a funnel, it's narrow at the bottom, but it opens up at the top. And the reason for that is because when you are, in a sense, micromanaging them a little bit as they are younger, you're creating those perfect boundaries for them to live in. And the reason for that is because then when they grow up, they have better discernment as to what behaviors are right and wrong, and they have morals. And those morals are what they're going to be using as a foundation by what they do for the rest of their life, those principles that you instill in them. And that happens in the neck of the funnel. And then as they grow up, then you open up more responsibility, you let them grow. And it's the same thing with our relationships. You have boundaries when you are in a relationship. If you flip it around and you don't have any boundaries with any person in your relationship, they're going to just wreak havoc in your life and do whatever they want, because that's what you've taught them they can do, that they don't have to respect your boundaries. And you have to be able to say, no, actually, I don't appreciate that. And if they don't acknowledge or recognize that you have boundaries, then maybe that's a person that you will have to consider cutting off in your life. But I really like what that gentleman said, how much poison do you need to take before you kill yourself? And even though that sounds like a funny concept, the reality is true, because the more cortisol that you actually have, it actually weakens your gut flora, which then weakens your immune system, which then weakens the rest of your body. And in a sense, that type of stress is actually killing you. Whether you want to believe it or not, stress is not something that I think God intended for us to have, because he says, do not worry, do not fear. All of those things are not in line with who God is. And remember, guys, cutting the branch off will not kill the tree. You are just pruning it. And it is so important to be able to make that distinction, because some of us think that cutting the branch off is like cutting the root off. It's not the same thing. So make sure that when you kind of process through that point in your life where like, okay, I need to cut this person off, know that you still love them, but that branch, even though that branch is going to get cut off, it's not to say that it's not going to hurt, it's not going to be painful. Of course it's going to be painful. It's a part of you to a degree. So you want to make sure that you're recognizing it as the branch and it's not the root. Because yes, roots are very important, but that is your foundation. Those are the very few individuals that you have in your life that are there forever and who would basically ride or die with you no matter what. But if you don't sense that of individuals, it's okay. And there's nothing wrong with having a moment of separation if you need to. Remember, branches can be grafted into a tree as long as the tree is living. And if maybe that branch that seems like it's dying or causing death to, the rest of the tree, you cut it off, and hopefully you're able to find a smaller part that might still be alive on that branch. And if that branch starts growing and starts becoming fruitful, then maybe you can reattach that branch again at a later time and a later point. But it's not over, right? So that's another way of just kind of looking at it from an illustration perspective that I just hope it kind of helps you. So with that said, guys, may you live, thrive, and be healthy. Take care.